Hello everyone and welcome. Today's topic is about functions. We will see how they work, what's a procedure, the main purpose of using functions, and the syntax. A function is a block of code wrapped that accepts inputs called parameters and returns an output. And for the case of procedure, it's the same as a function that returns nothing, while a function of course does return an output. We could simply imagine this function same as a mathematical one, where the inputs are the x values and the output is y. The main purpose of using functions and procedures is to avoid repeated code blocks in our program. This means that when we have some code that we will use multiple times during our coding, we will have to wrap it inside the function and then only we will call this function during coding. Also useful to present simple and clear code, and finally to achieve faster debug when edge cases occurs, and this helps to fix the issues inside our code without going up and down to search for the problem where we already know that this problem is wrapped inside a function. The syntax of a function: we start with the def keyword, then we provide a name for this function, and we could also provide some parameters or inputs to this function. Then we have our code, and in the end we could use the return keyword to return a value or anything like that. In the case of procedure, we could simply remove this return statement at the end, and this now will be called a procedure. I have already made a simple code here. As you can see, the def keyword, then we have the name of our function. Why this is a function? Because I used the return keyword here. I haven't used any parameters, and then this code is simply getting the input of the user, and then check if it's 0, then we print exit and we will return 0. If it's 1, then we will print continue and we will return 1. We could also use the return of these functions and assign them to variables or use them inside conditions. For example, here we could see that I called the function as a condition for the if statement. This means that if this function returns 0, then this if statement won't be executed. Else, when we return 1, this print statement will be executed. Let's check. I got prompted above to provide a number. I will provide first 1, and as we can see, the continue is printed because the input is 1, and we returned 1. Then for this check, if 1, this means that this if is true, then we will print the if executed continue. If I prompted 0, then we will get the exit and else executed. Here I have another simple function that accepts an input and returns true if it's an even number and returns false if not. The way I used the inputs here is by simply having the name of the variable, and optionally we could provide the type of this input. Here I have made it explicitly that this number is an integer. For our code, if this number or if the rest of division of this number by 2 equals to 0, then this number is an even number, so this is a function, not a procedure. The way we call this function or use it is by simply having the name of this function, and because it accepts an input, we have also to provide an input and assign the result or the return value of this function to this result variable, and we will print it. Here I have 1. 1 is an odd number, so if we execute these two lines, we could see that we have false value printed. If I use here the input 2, then 2 is true, and true is related to the block where the number is even. For this part here, I have used a procedure, not a function. Why this is a procedure? Simply there is no return keyword, so this won't return anything. The name is permission check. I have used a default value or default input. I have assigned a value to it, which is agent. Then I will check if the role equals to agent, I will print this block. If admin, I will print this. Else, I will print the value provided and then permission accepted. Let's execute this block. And then to call it, we don't have to assign it to a variable, and we can't use it inside a condition, of course, because it doesn't return anything. So let's see here. Permission check agent, permission accepted. This got printed because I have already used a default value. If I have to remove this default value, then I will execute this block again. I get an error because missing one required positional argument. Note that we have here the word argument, and when we have to pass a value, or when the user have to pass a value here, this one will be called an argument, or this value is an argument provided by the user. If I have to initialize it or use it inside of this function during the syntax, then this variable will be called a parameter. As you can see, if I hover over this role variable, it says parameter. But if I have executed this block, we could see that the error type says that I am missing an argument and not a parameter, because during the call the values will be called arguments, and we could see that chef permission is accepted. Again, admin permission accepted. And I guess that's it for today's video. I tried my best to keep it simple. I highly recommend, if you are a beginner, to check the Python Basics series that I have in the channel. If you have any topics, please provide them in the comments section. And that's it. See you in the next video.